And tonight, extremist elements in the Muslim community are reacting to the death of the world's most wanted terrorist. Now, both Hamas and Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood have condemned what they call the assassination of bin Laden. Now, meanwhile, radicals in Gaza have taken to the streets to condemn Sunday's raid. Now, one demonstrator even referred to bin Laden as a, quote, Arab warrior. And as we continue to monitor the world's reaction, there are some very serious questions being raised about America's relationship with Pakistan in the wake of bin Laden's death. Among them, just how exactly was the head of the al-Qaeda terror network able to hide virtually in plain sight in a mansion less than 40 miles from Islamabad? And did anyone inside the Pakistani government know he was there? Now, the former president of this country, President Musharraf, was asked that very question earlier today.
A lot of people used to ask me this question. Now, the first question they used to ask me was whether he's dead or alive, and I always said I don't know, because I was given after 9/11 through intelligence that he was some kind of a kidney patient. So therefore I didn't know. And the other thing is whether he's in Pakistan. I said I don't know. I used to get agitated when somebody without any information or knowledge or intelligence used to accuse that he is in Pakistan.
Now, Musharraf also said in that interview that he believes that Sunday's raid violated Pakistan's sovereignty. Here to respond to that and much more, Brett Stevens from the Wall Street Journal and Andy McCarthy from National Review. Guys, good to see you. Thanks.
See you, Sean.
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised at all at how the Muslim Brotherhood or Hamas or any of these extremist elements are reacting, or that some people are calling this guy an Arab warrior and that they're pledging revenge. I mean, it would be naive to think otherwise, right?
They've always, especially when they speak in Arabic, they've always been much more indulgent of bin Laden than some of the things they put out in English. But the thing people need to understand, I think, about the Brotherhood versus al-Qaeda is that they have tactical disagreements from time to time, but their bottom line is exactly the same. They want to install Sharia as a precondition or to lay the foundation for trying to create an Islamic State.
Well, it was particularly brazen on the part of the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority to call him a holy warrior. This is a group that's going to join in a coalition government with Fatah, expecting Western support, including American support, for their prospective Palestinian state. And yet they have no qualms associating themselves as vividly as they just have with the most wanted terrorist.
You know, a lot of questions are being raised, not the least of which is the treatment of bin Laden and his body. The fact that, as is part of Islamic practice, even though they got it wrong, you know, he gets clean, there's a he's put in a shroud, there's a 40-minute service aboard an aircraft carrier, and then he's laid to rest within the 24-hour period, as is Islamic custom. And I'm thinking, well, the 3,000 people killed on 9/11 didn't have that opportunity, did they?
No, they sure didn't. And all of this solicitousness, what does it get us? Because half the people are like us. We're saying, why are they doing this? Why this big theatrical treatment?
Well, but answer your question, why do you think?
Well, it's part of their Muslim outreach to show that, you know, how respectful they are of Islamic practices. But in the meantime, the clerics said they got it wrong anyhow. Anyway. So they're not satisfying anyone who's in their target audience. I don't get the point of it.
Is that a sort of, it's like you're trying to appease, if we're talking about the radical elements, I would think every Muslim should be happy, considering Osama bin Laden killed a lot of Muslims.
Yeah.
Do you think this outreach, as if we're to call it that, is going to have any success or bear any fruit?
No, it's feckless, and you just put a bullet through the guy's brain. Now, I don't mind that they dumped him in the ocean, because the last thing you wanted to do was have a shrine to bin Laden in Saudi Arabia or Yemen or wherever they might have interred him. But this farce of according him this kind of respect as an Islamic leader, we've spent the last years saying he's not a Muslim.
Why wouldn't he hold the body for a longer period of time? Especially, you know, look, a lot of people are doubting until the picture's released. People say every conspiracy theory in the world now exists.
We should have done what was in the strategic interest of the United States, and that probably is to have held the body to dispel any conspiracy theories. And we can't worry about, particularly with, as Brett was starting to say, somebody who we have been saying for over a decade was a perversion of Islam, not a real Muslim. To do this dog and pony show, which frankly is what it struck me as, when it was not in our strategic interest to do it, is pointless.
Yeah.
It's well, I mean, it's it's a strange thing, and it shows this kind of schizophrenic relationship that this administration has had towards the Muslim world. On the one hand, good, we got bin Laden. We're being good. We surged in Afghanistan. But on the other hand, there's this idea that by sort of playing not only to Muslim cultural sensitivities, by all means do, but by the most extreme versions of those sensitivities, including burqas, niqabs, and so forth, that we're somehow currying favor with people who will always look at us as an enemy.
Well, that's a good point. As it relates to the sensitivities, or the idea you can curry favor with them, et cetera, it's impossible. We're at war with them. And it seems rather naive that even in the releasing of the pictures, I want to see the pictures. There are pictures of former President Kennedy on the internet with half his skull blown off, if people want to see it. You know, Uday and Qusay, we saw the pictures of them. We saw Saddam Hussein hang. Why the reluctance here?
Well, I think you're going to find, Sean, if you remember with the Uday and Qusay episode, a lot of people on the left, probably some of whom are now working in this administration, were worried that it was a violation of the Geneva Conventions. And I'm sure one of the things that they're worried about now is making sure they have everybody's story straight who condemned that episode.
Probably right. You know what? A thought that I hadn't gone there. You agree with that?
Yeah, no,
that's probably true. And probably it's the same Barack Obama said, I'm not going to vote to raise the debt ceiling. It's irresponsible. Right. You know, maybe he said something. You never know.
Obama? Sure,
yeah.
It's possible.
Right, now I've got my research set out for me tonight. I'll go there. All right, guys, good to see you both. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
And let not your heart be troubled. Our great American panel is coming up straight ahead. And tonight on our great American panel, he is a Fox News military analyst. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan is here. He's a Rhodes Scholar, U.S. Navy SEAL, author of The Heart and the Fist, The Education of a Humanitarian, The Making of a Navy SEAL. Eric Greitens is with us, and he served in Somalia in the Battle of Mogadishu and is the author of the new book, SEAL Team 6. Sound familiar? Memoirs of an elite Navy SEAL sniper. And we know now that the SEAL Team 6 was the unit responsible for killing Osama bin Laden. Former Navy SEAL Howard Wasden is with us. First of all, thanks to all of you guys for your service to the country. You were in this Team 6 that we've heard so much about. What can you tell us?
Well, Sean, it was an honor and a privilege to be a member of that team. All SEALs are elite. Being privileged to be with SEAL Team 6 is just a cut above and made me very happy and very proud to this day.
That they were part of this. You know, you always worry in a situation like this because there's always something that can go wrong. And the fact that the helicopter was able to land after being disabled, was a real blessing. And then they still finished their mission. And no casualties, no injuries, apparently.
Yes. I mean, and in this type of ops, something usually does go wrong. And luckily, there was no loss of life or really bad injuries. So it was really good.
Yeah. And how long were you Navy SEAL?
So it's been 10 years now of active and reserve service, Sean.
Yeah. I mean, the training that you go through to become a SEAL, is it as brutal as everything that I've read and seen on television?
It is.
Beyond that?
It is as brutal. It's considered the hardest military training in the world. In our class, we started with over 220 people in our original class, and by the time we graduated with 21 originals.
Wow.
So really difficult training.
How about you? How many?
We started with about 138 and graduated about 21.
Wow, that seems, and they want you to quit. They're pushing for you. They want you out, right? In other words, they want to test you to see if you can take it.
They make you think they want you to quit. They really don't want you to quit. They just want to see if it gets bad enough, will you quit, which is the whole premise for the tough training.
Yeah. All right. What do you what is your take, Colonel, on the what happened, the mission itself?
Well, Sean, I was around when we tried to do Desert One. I know many of the people that were on that mission in Tehran, and I still associate with them, and I know how they feel about the difficulties of that thing. To watch a great op like was just done, SEAL Team 6, to watch an op like that, how can you not be extremely proud of the military as a whole, the men and women, and certainly those men in SEAL Team 6 that went in and did, as these guys have suggested, almost the impossible. I mean, it's very tough to run a precision mission like that and not have something go wrong, and nothing went wrong.
Yeah, and the fact that they got it. I've got to imagine, and maybe you know and you couldn't tell, or maybe you know and you couldn't tell, but you were a part of this Team 6. The person, the guy, the professional, the SEAL that got to pull that trigger,
Well, it's basically what you dream about in training, Sean. The guy who got to pull the trigger still will give credit to everybody else on that team, all the other supporting
24
factors.
guys.
But for a fact, they were doing a little high-fiving in the helo on the way out.
Oh, I believe that. Did they pick the guy, or I'm sure there was a team that was to go in, and so nobody knew who was going to see who when they got in there?
There's no way of knowing that. You don't know what room he's going to be in, who's going to be responsible going into that room, who's going to be in what part of that room to actually make the killing shot. So you couldn't choreograph it like that. This guy just happened to be in the right spot at the right time.
Is your take that all the evidence is that they wanted to go in and kill him, that there was no desire to take him out of there alive?
You know, it's difficult to speculate on exactly what the orders were that they were given, but I can certainly say that I'm happy with the result, and I think all Americans are.
Split-second decision, Sean. You know, I mean, I think that they probably would have liked to have captured him. The administration probably would have rather had a prisoner than a dead body. But when you're that young guy sitting in there, split-second decision. You're not just talking about your own life. You're talking about the life of your teammates right there. You can't take any chances.
No, you can't. I agree with you. All right, we'll talk about some of the controversies we've been discussing, the release of the photographs, the 45-minute, can you believe 45-minute funeral on a carrier? We'll get to that. Much more with our great American panel next. And we continue now with our great American panel. All right, it seems like this issue of sensitivity is really beginning to bother me. This whole notion that, well, if we don't release the pictures, that we'll be liked. If we, clean Osama bin Laden's body and we put a shroud on it and give him a proper Islamic by custom funeral, 45 minutes, translated into Arabic, that will be liked. I find that thing, you're shaking
No way,
your head.
Sean. It's not going to change anybody's opinion about us one way or the other. In fact, I think, I probably speak for a lot of Americans in saying that we should have treated him and his body with the same disrespect that he treated all of those who died right here on 9/11.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I got to be honest, and I guess maybe this is why I wouldn't be good at taking orders, but, if I was given the task of handling it, I'd be punching him in the face, even though he's dead, just for good measure. You're laughing, but I would. That's what I want to do.
And I disagree with the Colonel on just one little simple thing. I might not have went to that extent in preparing the body and all that, but what separates us as Americans is our ability not to drag bodies through the street, to hang them from bridges. We did show respect, not to terrorists, but to the Muslim community, which most Muslims, I got patients who are Muslims, I got friends who are Muslims. Most Muslims are not out to kill Americans. So by doing that, hopefully we showed them that we are, and we really are, the greatest nation on the planet.
Why do we have to prove this after all that we've done for the Muslim world in Kuwait and Iraq and Afghanistan and Kosovo? Why do we have to prove to everybody that America has never been against the Muslim world, that we've been against radical Islamic terrorists? Why do we have to prove this over and over again? I don't feel this compulsion.
Yeah, I don't think that we do have to prove anything. What I think we have to do is just make sure that we're always living American values. I think one of the things that is certainly special in the SEAL teams is that all of these men have a warrior's heart. And the idea is that as a warrior, you're distinguished not just by your physical courage, not just by your tactical proficiency, but also by your mental and your moral strength. And that's really what always separates us from our enemies. And so the important thing is not to prove anything to anybody, but to make sure that we're living in a way that's consistent with our own values. And if we're doing it for that reason, then it's the right thing to do.
No, but I think of the 3,000 people that died. Yeah. We didn't even find the remains of a lot of these people. Right. And, all right, maybe I just can't see washing his body, covering him in a shroud, 45-minute funeral, translated into Arabic. It's so over the top to me.
We need to remember also about how many Muslims he's responsible for killing.
Yeah, he killed Muslims.
And we need to ask them what they think about how we should have treated him. And we might be surprised. I don't know. We might be surprised about how many of them feel because, well, certainly there's a lot of Muslims who were outraged about everything he did, everything he represented, and are probably just as happy as we are that he's gone.
All right, the other big issue is it's very obvious now that enhanced interrogations, rendition, black sites, that the harsh questioning led to the intelligence, thanks to the Bush administration, and I think they deserve as much credit for what happened Sunday as, and I said the president, who I'm not a fan of, I think he made a pretty gutsy decision by going in the way he did so that we could have confirmation that, in fact, it was bin Laden instead of dropping a bomb. The left doesn't want to do that, but more importantly, Don't we need to have these interrogations if we're ever going to advance in this battle against people that want to destroy us?
You heard what I just said about rising above and proving that we have good moral values. By the same token, if there's any information that we can get, and I'm saying this by whatever means necessary, to keep one American serviceman, man, woman alive, then by all means, they are terrorists. They have no rights as far as I'm concerned when it comes to getting information. And I say do whatever is necessary.
When you were becoming a SEAL, did you get waterboarded?
When I went through SEER school, which is survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, we had a different type of torture called the smoke torture. So I got smoke tortured, which is still a way of making you think that you're choking to death.
You too?
I didn't have that, but some of my friends, when I went through SEER school, select individuals, a lucky few actually had the waterboarding treatment.
A lucky few?
A lucky few. Yeah.
All right,
Don, I
took
took a lot of prisoners in Vietnam. I did a lot of interrogations. And I never treated any of those people with disrespect. You always respect the person as an individual, but he has information you have to get if it's going to save
lives.
Not just the lives of my own men, but the lives of innocent Vietnamese civilians. So, I don't.
Why, if I saw you,
apologies.
I would just look at you and I'd say, well, what do you want to know? I'll tell you everything.
Yeah, thanks, John.
And I say that in the friendliest of ways. Guys, you're all American heroes. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Appreciate it. And that is all the time we have left. Let not your heart be troubled. The news continues. Greta's next. See you tomorrow night.